Hey Truck, I'm in massive credit card debt. Do you recommend that I take out a payday loan or open up more credit cards? I think you should gamble. It sounds like what you need is a big win. You know what I'm saying? Because all this is like itty bitty credit card stuff. I think if you just do one big spin, put it all on red or something, then you're good. No, you should do what everyone in America is doing and get really into sports betting. That's what you should do. You should get really into sports betting, and then whenever anybody asks about it, say you're up, no matter what. And then say the secret is you have to know how to play the point system. So talk about how you figured out, you know how to churn points and you know how to like use the freebies on different apps, and you're definitely making money. It's definitely a good use of your time. It's really skill-based. And it's cool. That's your best thing to do. What do you actually do when you're in massive debt? I mean, there's no breaking math, right? Honestly, I clown on the Dave Ramsey stuff a lot, especially I don't like his shows, which are just basically take a millennial, call in and then yell at him for being in debt. But there is the thing called the waterfall method, where you basically pay off the smallest amount first, one at a time. You just focus all your extra money on one thing and get that win. And so you start feeling some progress for it and then do it. It's, I think, pretty good. I think that's a good thing to do. And the best way to do it is line it by interest payment. So like if you have a 25% credit card interest payment and like a 6% student loan, pay the credit card first, even if the student loan's smaller. And you should just focus on paying that down. Pay down all that debt first. Remember, like, I think people don't realize this, especially during the days of like 2021, whenever you could like completely super crypto gamble or whatever. If you have $100 and you use it to pay down debt that has 6% interest, that is like putting it into the market and getting 6% return. It's the same thing, especially if you have a high interest rate. Like let's say it's a 20% credit card interest rate. If you put that money towards paying down credit cards, you'd have to earn more than 22% in the market for it to be worth it. Like anything you do with the money has to earn more than what that would cost you in interest. So just take it and pay debt. It's like the best thing you can do. It's the highest return that you can do is just pay down that high interest debt. Let's say, let's say you have $5,000 credit card debt. Let's say you have $500. If you put the $500 into paying this down and it goes down to $4,500, that is like you got a 20% return on your $500. So if you instead took the $500 and put it into, I don't know, Google stock, and then at the end of the year, Google's up like 19%, you might be thinking, wow, I put that money, it grew for me. I made money. I bought Google stock, it went up 19%, I made money. But you actually lost money compared to just paying down debt. Paying down debt would make you more money. So if you have a high interest rate, like there's nothing you're gonna find in the real market that's gonna be better for you than just pay. This is guaranteed. So this has risk, and almost never will give you as high as this guaranteed. The only situation that's different is where you have like a 2 or 3% mortgage. This is an America thing. If you have a really low mortgage, then taking money and paying that down is probably not as good as putting it into the market or putting it in treasury bills or whatever. Like that, the money you get from that is going to be almost certainly higher than 2 to 3%. And so, this will be a better option. But if you have something above that, like even a student loan, like say you have a 7% student loan, everything you pay down for this is like getting a 7% return, which is really good. A guaranteed 7% return that's above treasury bills. What I'm just saying is paying down debt is like almost always the best option. Almost always. It's the most guaranteed, more money in your pocket long-term. My student loan is 2.7%. Then it's different. If it's under 3%, I think you could probably make the case that you don't need to pay it. Also, I will say, so they did a study on people. They had to take a math test, 10-question math quiz. And they said it was about something else, but they tested them actually for financial reasons or whatever. And it turns out that if you have an upcoming bill that you don't know how you're gonna pay, let's say you have an upcoming rent bill and you're not 100% certain that it's already able to be paid. Like you have to figure it out. Like you're stressed about how am I gonna pay this bill? I'm not saying you can't pay it, but you have to think about it, all right? If you have that, your performance loss on the test is equivalent to having 2 nights of no sleep. Just the mere act of having a bill that you don't know how you're going to pay in your brain is that much of a drain on cognitive performance. I think it's worthwhile to realize that like there's a peace of mind issue, that taking risks on any excess money you have in things like the market is kind of a thing only you should do whenever you've paid down at least as much debt as you can to where you feel comfortable and it's not a stress on your mind, because that's going to have a snowballing compounding effect. That explains why my brain always feels empty. I mean, legitimately, if you are constantly stressed about money, it's a real provable drag on your ability to focus. It's that much of a challenge. It's stressful. That is what my recommendation is, just like, and again, the only way to pay debt is to have money. So if you don't have money, I'm not trying to fucking add to your stress here. I'm just saying as a financial choice, You know, if you could fucking put it in perspective, it's like, I think people sometimes think it doesn't feel good or make a difference to take that extra $100 and just put it towards debt, but that does add up and you are getting a return on it. And the return you're getting is the amount of the interest you're not having to pay. I almost bought a house with a 7.2% interest rate. Glad I'm still renting. Bro, the longest time recently, interest rates were really low. And so Americans could get like a 2 or a 3% interest rate on a 30-year mortgage. That's fixed. So for the whole 30 years, you're still at 2 to 3% interest rate, which is fucking great. That's like unheard of. A 30-year fixed mortgage at like 2.5% is like amazing. You can get really low payments, low interest, long time. It's fucking awesome. This is why housing prices got out of control, because everyone can take out these fucking incredible loans subsidized by the government and buy housing. But now, in an effort to combat inflation, they've raised interest rates. So now if you want to get a mortgage, it's like 7-8%, which means payments are like way fucking higher, way higher than people can afford. So that's a problem. And that is why almost no houses are being sold or bought right now. Everyone that has a house like this won't sell, because if they sell this house, they have to buy a new house with a much higher rate that they can't afford. Like, even if, like, let's say you bought this house at like, I don't know, 400K, and then now it's up to fucking 700K. Like, you want to sell. You're like, oh, I made a bunch of money. My house is up. I want to sell and I want to move, or I want to get a different job somewhere. I want to leave. But you cannot, because if you sell for 700K, then you try to buy a new house, you still can't make the payments. Yeah, it's called golden shackles. Basically, it's freezing the market. And so because of this, because none of these people are selling, and this is a huge majority of American homeowners, and so there's no supply. So if nobody's selling up here, these houses at 7-8% should normally have to drop their prices, but they don't, because there's no supply. There's so few houses that, like, even a house that's like 800K, $1 million at a high rate, it's still getting bought by the very few millennials who can afford it. That is the problem. Like, the housing market is in this weird middle of the road freeze. Now, this won't last in my understanding. Yeah, something's gonna crack and it's gonna tumble this whole thing down. But right now we're in this weird interim period where everything's sort of being held up by like shaky hands. But still, in America, this is still better than how they have it in other countries, because if you're an American and you had a 2% mortgage and interest rates rose to 7% or 8%, your house doesn't change. You're on a 30-year fixed. So it sucks that you can't move. It sucks you can't sell your house. It sucks you can't find something else. It sucks you're stuck where you are. But it's worse if you're in the UK or a lot of European countries, I think Canada too, where you're on a adjustable rate mortgage and all of a sudden your payments just double, okay? All of a sudden your 2% or your 3% goes to 6%, okay? And your payments are just double. Like overnight, you suddenly have to pay way more on your mortgage every month and you cannot afford it. And so now you're not just unable to sell your place, you're probably gonna have to go, you're getting kicked out. That's the real problem. So I would say America's problem is still bad, still extremely bad, because it leads to like this weird impossibility for millennials and Gen Z to buy houses. I don't think it's as bad as the crisis going on in the UK. Thank God the UK isn't real. Oh, what I wanted to say was, so right now, interest rates, they're high. They're 7-8%. And so nobody wants to buy, right? But real estate market is like desperate for you to buy, especially real estate agents. Again, America has a fuck ton of real estate agents and not enough housing transactions to support them, which is why there's mass layoffs right now in real estate. What they've been saying is marry the house, date the rate. Marry the house, date the rate is what they've been saying. Basically, what they're saying is like, hey, don't worry about it. Don't worry about your huge payments. You buy this house, payment rates are going down next year. Don't worry about it. You'll refinance down to 2-3% guaranteed. Okay? Don't worry about it. Just, you love this house, get in it. You'll have to make some high payments at first, but they'll go down for sure. And that is fucking risky. They don't know. I repeat, if someone tells you this, I have some millennials in chat who are about to be house buyers. They're looking. This is not a real statement. They have no idea what the rate's going to be next year. They are just telling you that so that you buy. This is part of their strategy. My boss literally told us to tell people that. Yes. No, I have talked to actual people working at real estate agencies that have told me that they were told by their bosses to say this. Marry the house, date the rate. This is like the strategy. The other thing they say is like survive till 25. Which is basically like everything's gonna have to crash down by 25 and they're gonna have to fucking slam interest rates down to, 2%, 1%, 0% again So all you have to do is make it till then. But all of these things are speculation from a class of people that needs to move houses to make money. That's what they want. And because the housing market is frozen and there's no transactions, it has just wiped out the real estate market. Be careful. If you hear this statement, do not buy a house hoping it'll go down. I personally do think it will go down. I think in 2024, they're going to have to I think banks are going to start failing again. And the government is just going to have to bring down interest rates again to try and fucking save what is a collapsing house of cards. But that is my opinion, okay? Based on what I'm looking at in the data. I don't know. Nobody knows. So right now, the housing prices are very high. The prices haven't really gone down yet. High prices, and then the interest rates are high, so you have high payments. See, what we had before was high prices but low payments, so nobody really knew about it. Because you could have a really expensive house, but if you can make them monthly, you don't really think about it. But right now we have high prices, high payments. But we also have the one thing that makes this all possible: low unemployment. Means most people have jobs. Imagine you buy this house right now at the highest price, with the highest payment, with a job that you think will make you allowed to make those payments. And then unemployment starts to rise from its like multi-decade lows. If this starts to rise and suddenly maybe you lose your job, or you have to get a job that pays less, and you're stuck with this extremely expensive house that you bought at the top of the market with an extremely high payment, you can see how that would be a problem. So that is what I think is brewing right now that people aren't really talking about enough. What are the negative effects of interest rates going down? The reason they have interest rates up is to stop inflation. What happens when interest rates are down to like zero? It's a world of rampant speculation. Because money is so cheap to borrow, people borrow, and that's what creates bubbles. They borrow for everything. They borrow for fucking meme coins. It's 2021. When you have low interest payments, and that puts a lot of money in the economy, which leads to inflation. So in an effort to slow down spending, to slow down rampant wage growth and wage price spiral, they're raising interest rates. They're literally trying to slow the economy down and hopefully get a soft landing. And my expectation is that it won't be a soft landing.